Husbands, quick question. Have you ever tried to help your partner, but it somehow made things worse? You say, I'm going to cook dinner tonight. And within 60 seconds, Gordon Ramsay appears in your kitchen. Why is the pan cold? Why are you cutting it like that? Step away from the onions. And you're standing there thinking, I was trying to be nice. How did I end up in this trouble? If that's you, don't worry. This is normal. The point of today's episode, menopause can change the mood, the body, the sleep, and the stress in a home. And most partners are flying without navigation. Today's playbook, not to fix your partner, to love and support her and protect the relationship. Stay here because in a few minutes, our guest will give you a 60-second wingman move for those nights when the vibe is fragile. Welcome to the Masters of Wellness podcast, where Eastern wisdom meets Western science. We converge inward for clarity and then expand outward into purpose, so you leave with actions, not just ideas. I'm Edward Curtin, joined by the co-host of Curiosity, Chuck Smith. Chuck, what excites you about today's topic?
Well, I don't want Gordon Ramsay showing up in my house either, so I am excited about this. Unless he's going to cook without yelling, that's a different.
Yeah, apparently in his own home, he's quite a softie, so I think it's part of his persona. Today, we're joined by Michelle A. Hardwick from County Cork, Ireland. Michelle is a clinical hypnotherapist. She's been in practice since 1998. For the last decade, she's focused on menopause, not only supporting women, but also helping partners to stop guessing. She's the author of Menopause Wingman, the emotional handbook for partners. It's built on 25 years of clinical work, Michelle's own 10-year menopause journey with her husband, John, and real voices of men surveyed across the world. Michelle, welcome to the Masters of Wellness podcast.
Thank you, gentlemen. Delighted to be here. It's such an honor, and I'm so thrilled to be able to speak with you today. And massive thanks also to Debbie Harris, who linked us all together. She's just a power agent herself, so I'm very grateful for her linking us all together. Thanks for having me on your podcast. Yeah.
Absolutely. And Michelle, if there's a husband listening into the beginning of our show, what are they likely to walk away with today?
Some hope and a little bit more understanding, a lot more clarity, maybe some compassion too, and a few tools as well. So a few tips, a few tools as well. And just to know that there is someone in their corner who absolutely understands and who is willing to support them as they navigate this journey of menopause with their beloveds.
And speaking of journey, how about we journey back to the beginning? Where did Michelle get this idea? What was the catalyst for writing the book? And tell us about a guy named Richard.
Sure. So I had no intention of writing a book. The book chose me. So I was on a Zoom networking call explaining about the work I do with women, which is supporting women emotionally through the menopause, because a lot of emotions do come up during this time. And I had met with a lady who was a publisher, and she said, I'd love to write a book around menopause. And I thought, that's not really my bag. And Richard then chimed in. He was on the call with me in the Zoom room, and he just stopped the conversation and said, "You should write a book for men. If I'd had that, maybe my marriage might have survived." And for me, it was just an absolute light bulb moment where I just was aghast. I was thinking, "Oh my goodness." I have focused on my own natural journey through menopause for the past 10 years with my beloved husband beside me, bewildered, not knowing what was going on. And it was sort of like a light bulb went off, and I thought, my goodness, they are the missing piece of this conversation. And although I'd worked with men and women, it never once occurred to me to kind of go, actually, how are you doing in all of this? So challenge accepted from Richard. And so I spent the last 12 months at least researching, talking with men, getting their input, using my own experience, our own experience, and then also my 25 years of clinical practice. And so that's what has resulted the book Menopause Wingman.
Mm. And speaking of your 25 years experience,
Yeah.
you've actually worked in multiple countries. Tell us a little bit more about your journey through life, where you've lived, what you've done, and then that will lead us into what we're talking about today.
Wow. So menopause never on my journey, on my radar at all as I journeyed through life. That was something that happened for older women, and I was certainly not that. So I started actually in the hospitality industry. So my parents had fish and chip shops in North Wales. And so I was studying as well. I was studying hospitality and left and then went to Switzerland. So I worked in the hospitality industry in Switzerland for 5 years in Zurich. And then I went to Crans-Montana, to French-speaking part, and I became a lecturer in food and beverage there in an English-speaking school called Les Roches. And then I was looking for more of a challenge, so I wanted some Asian experience, and I was looking for food and beverage positions in Asia, and I was hoping to get to Hong Kong. However, I was told that that was very much for men. And if I wanted to go into housekeeping or reception, then I could do that, but not food and beverage. So I was like, oh, okay, anything else then? And they said, yeah, we've got China. And that was the early 90s. So I said, yep, I'm going there then, send me there. So I went to the Shangri-La chain, to their flagship hotel in Beijing. And I was there for 3 years. So I was running an operation there. They had, I think, 30 odd food and beverage outlets at the time, and I was running one of them. And then they asked if with my experience, whether I would set up a school for Chinese managers to teach them all the methodologies of managing people, because of course in the communist world everyone's equal. So we set up a program, a 6 weeks and 8 week program, teaching them how to actually, so they were called champions, and teaching them how to manage people, so that our jobs became redundant over time, and that we had these younger, really enthusiastic, wonderful people coming up through the ranks to actually be able to take over and manage the Chinese people. So it was a wonderful experience, and I absolutely loved China. And I was just so blown away with how different it was and how magical it was for me. It was tough too in the 90s, my God. But then after that, I found a new position in New Zealand. So I hopped over to New Zealand and I joined a college, as a polytechnic, and then was looking to do more kind of work in supporting organizations in New Zealand, because their food and beverage their level wasn't really at the level of kind of 5-star level. So I went into consulting actually, and I helped in a consulting company for a number of years before feeling completely burnt out with my journey, and then pivoting from stress producing work into stress releasing work. And so I studied as a hypnotherapist, added NLP and EFT, the tapping, and then added a number of different skills and opened up my own clinic there. And that was in 1998. So I've been doing that ever since, but adding new skills, new tools, new strings to my bow, but also realizing that, the more we can clear the stuff that impedes us and blocks us from our past, then the more in alignment we are with our true self, and the more we are, excuse me, the more we are a better person, a better family member, a better person in the community, in the business world as well. So my role then become more supporting and helping individuals to thrive and prosper. So I added then mindfulness and meditation as well, to be able to work in the corporate world as well. So to actually start that journey of people understanding, when they unplug for a little while, how much more happy they are, calmer they are. The organization obviously benefits, but also the person themselves benefits, and their family and the people that are around them benefit too. So that's what I've been doing since 1998, loving it. It doesn't feel like I'm working. I just have the privilege of working with people, and they share a lot of their deepest information, and we get to explore that and help them let go of some of the patterns and the programs that are really out of date and sort of set them back on track to who they are becoming. So that's just a very potted version of me.
That's great.
It
Thanks,
certainly
Jack.
helps to add some context to the big picture. It was only about 2 years ago when I first attended a menopause conference for women.
Great. Yes.
For the fitness industry. So it was for coaches that were working with menopausal women. I was the only guy in the room. There was probably 50 people there. I was the
Bless
only
you.
guy there. And
Yeah.
that kind of
That was a
highlighted
lot.
to me how out of touch or the misunderstandings that exist between men and women about who menopause is for or who should know about it. For me, I wanted to learn about it because I'm always coming across clients that are going through this, and I want to understand more how to work with them. But possibly because women feel comfortable training with women, or maybe female coaches feel comfortable training ladies with menopause. I'm not really sure why. But that was only like 2 years ago, and I realized there is a real need in the market for more men to understand. I've got a question for Chuck here. Like, Chuck, before we started to talk about menopause 1 or 2 weeks ago, leading into Michelle's episode, what's the first thought that came to your mind when we talked about, we're going to do a show on menopause? Like, what's a typical reaction or response that men have?
Oof. All right. Let's see. Filtered or unfiltered? No, I'm just kidding.
Unfiltered.
So always filtered, right? So I'm in my young 40s. My wife is about to hit 40 next year. So to me, it's more like selfishly, we're not there yet. So, I'm in this arena, so I'm interested in learning so that way maybe I can help her when she gets there.
Yeah.
But my initial thought initially was it doesn't really apply to me yet, but it's certainly something that will. It's for lack of better term, inevitable. So I'm curious what I can do before my spouse even hits that phase to how I can support her and get stronger and knowledgeable and prepared for that phase of our life.
Yeah. And that's so true, Chuck. I think the majority of the men that we interviewed, that filled out the survey, they all said they wished they'd have studied up and learned a little bit more before it all began. That was one of the regrets a lot of them said, was that they just didn't know. And, they wished that there'd been something there for them to be able to prepare them for what was going to be coming. So I think you're right. And I think there is that kind of, and I had the same, Chuck, it's like, that's for older women, it's got nothing to do with me, So I think the more we can ready ourselves, then the easier it can be, or the smoother it can be. And then the more that the woman actually feels like there's someone in my corner. Not that you have to become an expert in it, but there's someone who's happy to read the articles or watch the podcast or whatever, that actually is taking an interest in what is going on. Because there's so much about puberty, there's so much about being pregnant, but where do you go for the menopause? Because it's never been talked about in my past. It was never talked about. So women just endured it or went through it. And I asked my 97-year-old mother what it was like. She didn't have any support at all. And I said, what was it like? And she said, it was hell. I was like, okay. Yeah. Bless her.
And then if an important person in a partnership is going through hell and they feel as though they're alone, that makes it even 10 times worse.
Absolutely.
Like there's a saying, when you have someone there together with you, the burdens seem to be halved and the joys seem to be doubled.
As a male, I'm a very much like a problem-solving type of guy. So what can we do now, or what can she do now, so that way when that phase comes, it's less of a hell, right? So is there solutions to pre-menopause before she even hits that phase where it doesn't happen too soon, or when it does happen, she can get through it without hell.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think that's true, Chuck. I think many men, and I found that too, that many men do want to fix, they want to get in there and they want to help. And, that's wonderful. And sort of like your first initial part about the Gordon Ramsay thing, sometimes it's being there. It's about your presence and holding the space and understanding that this is a huge transition for her and also for your relationship. So in the book, I sort of take it in a journey, and one of the chapters is about the home base. So there are things already that you can implement within the home base to actually make things a bit easier, having fans around, not as in woohoo fans, but, installing fans, or, the odd kind of these fans. I have this beside me, when I'm watching TV, or not that one, but a different one. So there's various things that you can do, and opening up the conversation, because menopause is going to require you to discuss some pretty challenging things. So if you can have that conversation, open it. And one of the things is, I've recommended in the book to kind of have a quadrant, where you might want to put, I'm happy to fix this if I can. Do you want me to just listen? Do you just need a hug, or do you just need some space? And then without any communication, she can just point to one of them, and then you're like, okay, I got it. Okay, I need to give you some space. Off you go, or you might just need a hug or whatever. So it's just kind of really clarifying, because when you're in that emotional thing, you might not be able to express, because sometimes even we don't know what's going on. I was talking with a lady this morning, and she was saying the rage that came up, and she just was like so angry, and her husband received all of that anger, and then when she'd had a chance to sort of sit with it, she went, actually, it's got nothing to do with him at all. This is hormonal. This is stuff that's going on. And the same with the sadness. Like, you can be watching something and just tears coming down your face, having a conversation with somebody, I'd be in tears, and I'd be like, what in my head, excuse my language, what the is going on? But this is my emotions hijacking me. So it can go two ways, this kind of sadness. So she might just need to be held and heard, or just for her to go and have some space and process what on earth just happened then. Or she might need you to go get her fan, or it might need to go get you, a face cloth that's already damp in the freezer in a Ziploc bag. Go and get her one of those, put it on her neck, in the front here or over her forehead, so that she can just cool down quickly, So there's loads of different tips in the book as well about how to thwart a hot flush when it does come, a hot flash, but what else to do. So definitely information is key, but also there are things that you can prepare, like I started wearing, the breathable shirts, the sports shirts, so you can sweat, but it doesn't stick on your body. So I invested in a load of them, huge XL size. So I would go to sleep in them. So when I did wake up, absolutely covered in sweat from head to toe, I could rip that one off, change the bedding, put another one back on, and then try and get back to sleep again. So there's loads of things like that are there in the book, as like you don't have to do all of them. But there's just things that you can try, talk about them, ask, would it help? Not I'm coming in now and I'm going to do it, but would it help? Or how can I best support you? And as Ed said, just having someone in your corner, it's like, I'm not having to deal with this again on my own. And that's where a lot of women, 51%, think, well, okay, I might as well do it on my own because I'm doing it on my own, and unfortunately, a lot of men don't want to make it worse. They don't have the information, so they step back. They feel like they're walking on eggshells. They don't want to make it any worse. And so in that very moment when they need to be stepping forward, they step back. And that's when the separation starts. It's like, well, I'm going down this journey and I am changing because I have no choice and I can't fix it. So I have to keep going. So I might as well go on my own. And that's the sad part. And I think that's where the hope is, that if we can communicate and understand and have compassion, then the relationship gets stronger. There are gifts, and I talk about that as well in the book, the unexpected gifts of menopause, that are there when she knows no matter what, you are in her corner. And it might even be as simple as you see her having a flush, just say, how about we go outside, take a bit of a breather? How about we just, say you're in a dinner party, whatever, we might need a bit of fresh air, let's go out, so she can actually cool down instantly. Or you hand her, a glass of water with ice in it, and she can, just as with tea, we used to warm our hands when we got a hot cup of tea. Same thing with ice. Iced water cools down the system like that. Give her that, because when she's got that going on, her brain is frozen. It's like, just been hijacked now. Don't know what to do. So you might need to guide them, or just say, do you know what? We might have an early night tonight, guys. Thanks ever so much for the invite, but I think we're going to head home now. So you stepping in and stepping up, not taking over, but just kind of saying, how do you feel about this? Would that be okay? That you have maybe a code word, and that she knows, I'm done. I need to get out of here now. And you step in and kind of steer her away from, whatever she's feeling, or, so I don't know. Does that help, Chuck?
Yeah, a lot. Thank you.
In your book, you say that men tend to do one of three things. They go quiet, or they try to fix it, or they pretend it's not happening. And what you're saying here is that even choosing to stay out of the way is still a choice, and sometimes that can make things worse.
That's true. It is, because it's mainly from a lack of information. It really is, not knowing what to do. And so it feels like you're being left with this enormous burden, and there isn't anybody else there beside you.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's a huge thing while you're dealing with everything else. And I think with women who are working now, they're in positions of power. So you're trying to deal with the workload and figure out what on earth's going on and try and resolve it either, with HRT or naturally. And then you've got the relationship, and then your body is just going AWOL, it's just doing its own thing. So I would be giving a presentation about mindfulness and meditation to an organization, and then suddenly I'd be saturated with water, and they'd be like, what's going on with her? Because, and how do you even keep composure? How do you look professional when you're just having water pouring out of every pore of your body? It's horrendous. And you have no control over that until you find the right things to do. So there are certain foods that would trigger a hot flush. There's certain drinks that trigger a hot flush, particularly and every woman's different. Every menopause is different. So it's like, as we're as unique as snowflakes here, you know what I mean? It's all different. But there are certain things you can steer away from, which I wasn't aware of until I started tracking my food, tracking what I was doing, and going, when I eat that, I get a hot flush within half an hour or an hour. Maybe I don't eat that in the morning of a presentation. Do you know what I mean? But it's like us then communicating that, so that it isn't like, oh God, here we go again, another thing I got to do. It's more about, okay, I'm going to support you with this. So let's do it this way today,
And Chuck, do you want to circle back to the question that you asked Michelle before we started recording today? Because it was specifically about this, just so that our listeners can get that context.
I was working on a project just trying to discover if it was possible, right? And then what people would have to do to get the same amount of nutrients and minerals that our bodies require on a daily basis in just a good diet. Like, what does that look like? And then the research just showed a very standard, very healthy, but for many people who are busy, almost unsustainable type of diet. It wasn't an outrageous number of calories. It wasn't anything bland. It was just very healthy. Okay. And even that said it in itself, like that it was missing some very key minerals that our body needs, that the soil's not providing, that most of us aren't going to get even from a healthy diet. So it's not only showed me that, okay, this is why it's hard to not supplement, right? because it's not only hard to sustain that. You look at that and you're like, can you do that every day or 5 days a week or even 4 days a week? And most families, most people, they would love to, but they can't either afford it or they can't sustain it with their lifestyle. So
Yes.
it was, okay, well, what happens if we don't have the right number of minerals and right number of nutrients in our body that our body needs? Like, what happens inside of our bodies? And so that was the question that I asked earlier before we recorded to Michelle, which I'll ask again. What happens inside of our bodies when we aren't getting those minerals and nutrients from a really good diet and not adding supplementation to that? And how does that also how does that connect or attribute to the maybe getting menopause prematurely compared to the average age, or also like get to menopause? How does that maybe, if I want to maybe boldly say malnutrition or lack of minerals and nutrition that our bodies are needing, how does that impact how we get through and deal with all of the hormonal shifts that we're having in menopause?
So that's a good number of questions.
Yes.
So let me circle back perhaps to the first one. I might ask you about the second and the third one in a little while. So the first one is it would exacerbate the symptoms. So you would get more intense symptoms with not having the right nutrients. So, we're looking at a cellular level being able to get nutrients into the cellular level. And once that cell is in alignment, then of course all the body is then in alignment. So I agree with you, the soil is lacking, nutrients now, it's been over farmed. Then we have the additional, fertilizers that are being sprayed on. Then we've got what's happening in the environment as well, the air pollution, that sort of thing. So the food isn't as nutritionally dense. So we would either have to, as you said, eat more of it, which is where we find ourselves. We might have something to eat and it just doesn't feel like it's actually done anything to our system. We're still craving something. We're craving good food. So that's one part of it, is that as our estrogen, progesterone and testosterone drops through the menopause, there is a requirement to have really good quality food, if you can afford it, organic, but something that is grown locally in the local environment, so you're getting as much as you possibly can, from the food that you are eating. I think a lot of the supplements are also filled with bulking agents and fillers and things, so you may only be getting a small amount of it anyway. So that's going to have an impact on how we sleep, how we digest, how we feel, what's happening in the brain, whether there's brain fog or not. Our craving for sugar then increases if there's all that other stuff in the food as well. So it's essential to get really good food at this time, because you're looking at longevity as well. You're looking at, the increase, my mother has dementia and Alzheimer's. So you're looking at those diseases are there more prevalently now than ever before. Maybe we're living longer, so we're actually aware of them now. But also what you're doing now is investing in good nutrition so that those things aren't going to be impacting you. And similarly, to circle back to when I first began the birth control pill in my 20s, I was never told that this would bring the menopause on sooner. No doctor mentioned that to me.
Yeah.
Was more about, so we have this problem, let's give her that tablet and that's fixed. So when I came off it at 40, I also went through a roller coaster, a bit of a ride. And and the symptoms were kind of separate, so I didn't really link them all together. And the menopause symptoms can be anywhere from 33 to kind of 77. So how on earth, as you're going through them, can you figure out, well, this is attributed to the menopause? So I was struggling with sleep. My digestion was out of whack. With certain foods that were really bad and really awful for my system. And I was traveling. I was in Hong Kong at the time. And I just thought, I need to find out what's going on here. I thought it was jet lag. So I went to the Good Spring Wellness Company in Central and I asked. So he said, yeah, he checked my tongue, my pulse. And he said, no. you're far too young to have menopause. And I thought, damn right I am. I'm only 45. And he said, we can give you a herbal remedy, 3 of them, and it will put you back on track and you'll start bleeding again. And that's exactly what happened. Like I took these 3, symptoms went away, and I'm like, grand, that's it. Save that for a rainy day. It's not going to be happening to me. Not now, anyway. So, and that was lifestyle. It was travel. It was different foods and everything else. But when I spoke to a gut coach recently, because of course, our metabolism slows down by half as women as we go through the menopause. She was saying to me, when did those symptoms of not being able to eat ice cream and not being able to eat wheat and, having reactions to sugar and spicy foods, when did that start? And we nailed it. She said it was perimenopause. So you don't I did never connect that together until she came up with it, said, well, that happens a lot to women, that there's certain foods you just can't tolerate anymore. I'd be eating loads of stuff like that in my younger days, and then suddenly I just could not tolerate it anymore. And no rhyme or reason. I just thought it was to do with jet lag, So that's my first answer. What was the second question, Chuck?
No, so it's more like, all right, so if you are able to sustain a very healthy diet where you're getting most of the nutrients that our body needs, minerals, or you supplement and
Yes.
it complement what you're eating to get that daily, can you prevent having menopause prematurely? And then when you hit menopause, because I guess, obviously menopause is inevitable, but when you hit menopause,
Yes.
can the symptoms be reduced if leading up to that, you have provided your body with the right amount of nutrients and minerals so that your cells are functioning at a high level that they're supposed to, and you're getting through that hormonal phase in less of a hell?
Yeah, I think if I'd have known about some of the supplements that I could have taken in my 30s to make things easier, I would have taken them, but I didn't know. I just wasn't aware of them. So that would have made the symptoms perhaps less. Some women who have had children don't have as many symptoms. I never had kids, so they don't have as severe symptoms because they've already kind of gone through that change and the hormones have rebalanced themselves. So some women don't have any sort of noticeable menopause. But if you have been on the birth control pill, if you've, either eaten a high processed food diet, then that is going to exacerbate the symptoms. So what you would be doing is lessening that with a really good diet. And, as we were talking about before we come on air, I found, so this was a nutritionist who said to me, find plant-based selenium and that will just completely eradicate your hot flushes, because most of the women who have hot flushes don't have enough selenium in their diet. And if you try to get that level of selenium, you'd be eating Brazil nuts till, the cows came home kind of thing. So I found one and it was wonderful and it stopped the hot flushes. I was like, oh my God, that's amazing. I'm kind of feeling a bit more like myself again, until the company changed. And I didn't know, but my body told me, because I started getting the symptoms again, hot flashes, irritability, all that kind of stuff. And I was like, something's happened with this. So I messaged them and emailed them. Took about 3 or 4 exchanges for me to keep going. Is it chemical or is this? No, it is selenium. I'm like, no, but it's not the same. Yes, it's the same. I'm like, no, it's not. And then finally they admitted, yeah, we've gone on to synthetic and chemical selenium. So of course my body now doesn't recognize that. Mm-hmm. And it's like we're back to square one again. So menopause is inevitable. Yes, it can't always be fixed, but there are certain things that you can take earlier on which make the journey a lot smoother. There are certain things that you can do. So really opening up that communication, really starting to look at other things that might be helpful in the process. So a lot of men didn't realize how much the women do in a day-to-day basis and how much they are the glue. and kind of go, well, she's handling it, let her at it. But unfortunately, what happens then is if you're on minimum amounts of sleep, you're exhausted, your brain is completely fogged over. You might not want to get up at 7 and walk the dog. So maybe, or empty the dishwasher or whatever. So just stepping in that time, it's like, oh, great, I can have a lie in, at least, let her sleep. And then you do the other bits so that she can actually recharge her batteries. So it's that kind of thing. It's just having that understanding of this is something that, has to be worked through and processed. So yes, you can. And there's certain things that are not going to be avoided because it is kind of like a spiritual upgrade. She's becoming much more authentic, she's becoming much more of a real self. So the people pleasing drops away. So this wonderful, malleable woman who said yes, to any challenge, she's like, no, screw it now. I'm not doing that because I'm now in survival mode and I can't be handling that. So all of those changes are like, well, where, John, you say, where is my holistic Zen friend gone? And I'm like, I don't know where she's gone, So yeah, that part of us, leaves the building. But what you're getting is someone who's much more in touch with themselves, much more real, much more authentic. And so the relationship can deepen as a result of that.
See, I've got a really important question that I'm going to hold till later, and everyone's going to want to listen to the answer. So stay tuned for that. Coming up, we've got Michelle's playbook. Before we go further, like and subscribe the channel here on YouTube, or if you're listening on any of the audio channels, like, subscribe, write a comment, 6 words or more. It helps more people to be able to see the episodes and to learn about the amazing things that we're talking about today. And leave a comment with your biggest takeaway before you leave today. So, Michelle, in your book, you talk about a 3-step process: understand, connect, show up. So let's start with understand. Talk us through that. And you might need to mansplain it because a couple of guys here, this is new for us. Keep it simple.
So I think there needs to be a curiosity. Very much so, a curiosity in what's going on. You don't have to become a menopausal expert, but just kind of be curious about what's happening and really start to learn a little bit more about what's going on mentally, emotionally, physically, and be open to listening. So you might not have to fix it, but just be open to listening what's happening and maybe have that kind of, so meeting the person where they are. So it's like, yeah, I hear you. That must be horrendous, or yeah, that's really scary. One of the guys who gave his feedback said, I don't understand what she's telling me in terms of a hot flush, but boy, does it sound really scary, to have that going on, because you've got panic and anxiety in the mix with, all the hot flushes and everything else. And one guy, his wife said, just feel my arm right now. And she was roasting, absolutely roasting, So she'd gone from normal to absolutely roasting. So he was able to tangibly feel how hot her body had gone in a moment's notice. And you do feel it coming up, and then boom, it's there, and there's no way you can stop it. So it's like it's there in an instant or not. So it's that listening, pacing, and just going, yeah, I get it. I don't know what that feels like, but I can understand. It's frightening, or it's scary, or it's frustrating, or it's, infuriating, whatever it is. So the understanding is the first step.
And one of the common mistakes, I guess, is men like to assume that they know what's going on, or they know how you're feeling or what you're thinking. So among that and other mistakes, what other mistakes do people make when it comes to trying to understand?
Yeah, so just circling back to that. Now, there are men who do experience hot flushes if they're going through chemotherapy. So they can experience that as well. So if you're experiencing it at the same time as your wife or your partner, then there is some understanding there, but usually not. So it is just about listening. Listen. listen to what she's saying and just say, yeah, that sounds horrendous. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Totally.
And I guess that
Yeah.
leads into number 2, which is connecting. So tell us, talk us through that.
Yeah. So I think often we're busy and we're running, particularly women, and running through their lives. They're running to get things done. We might be avoiding certain conversations, fearful of actually addressing a topic like this. So I think there requires a certain honesty to say, hey, I'm not going through it. I'm beside you, but I really can't understand and I don't understand, but I'm willing to learn. So honesty is a huge thing. And then having the compassion that, her body has gone AWOL. She can't control it anymore. All the tricks that she used up until this point do not work anymore. So there's a huge feeling of powerlessness, like she just has no control anymore. So having that compassion and that's where these things can trigger, like the food issues can be triggered, the frustration, the irritation will be triggered, because her body is now, like I mentioned, the menopause, the metabolism is now halved. So the food you might have got away with, you might have a little something there or a little something. Now it's showing. Now you can't get away from it. So there's definitely that honesty, having these honest, real conversations. And in the book, there are ways that you can address those topics. I share how best not to inflame it and create walls, but to create an open door of communication. And then finally, no judgment. Just having absolutely no judgment. This is what it is. And today she's doing well and things are great. Tomorrow might not be. So there's no judgment in how she's feeling or how she's coping or not coping. It's just connecting with her and going, okay, how can I show up? How best can I show up today for you? What can I help you with? And it's not like you need to be told to empty the dishwasher, but maybe you've done that already and said, look, I've emptied the dishwasher. Is there anything else you need me to do? Or is there anything else I can help you with? And then she feels like, oh, thank God, don't have to do that as well as everything else.
So this is actually step 3, which is show up. So step 1 was understand. Step 2 was connect. Step 3 is show
connect.
up.
Yeah. Just so that she's seen and heard, and validated and listened to. She might not want a fix, but she might just need you to hear. And she might just need to offload. Like, this is really horrible. And I don't know what's going on. And I feel really off. And I don't feel like myself anymore. I'm looking at someone in the mirror. That happened to me. I was looking at this woman in the mirror. I was thinking, who the hell is this woman now? And, what's going on? What's going on? So definitely small actions here and there, stepping up, helping, those go a long way to smoothing things out.
So let's make this practical. Let's say it's a Tuesday night. You're tired. She's tired. The vibe is off. This is where a lot of men do something silly. They disappear into their phones. They offer a solution nobody asks for, or they start cleaning the house like it's being prepared for an open day. What's a 60-second wingman move that helps?
Yeah. So just check, basically, put your phone down, as you said. Maybe see, does she want to go out for a walk? Get out in nature. That's a wonderful way to get back into balance. See if she wants her hand held or if she needs, someone just at her back. Just that physical contact. If she's roasting up, I don't know if you can see it now. I'm getting a mini wave now, a mini hot flush. So, and they come with no reason. So unless I haven't eaten any of the foods that I normally have. So there's something else going on in my system. So really just being there with your presence. Put your phone down, give her a hug if she's open to that. Take her outside, go for a walk, take the dog outside. Just disconnect from what's going on.
Chuck,
and
have
reconnect.
Yeah.
Sorry, Ed.
No, that's okay. Chuck, just wanted to ask, have you had a personal experience with someone in your life who has gone through the menopause or is going through?
Yes, my mother. I remember her getting hot flashes. I remember her communicating it very well. Like she would say, I'm getting a hot flash right now. I need my space. Or she would get out of the house and she would walk.
Yep. Great.
But it's interesting at that time. I've been trying to think back, like what she went through and some of the changes that she made. I think she handled it very well, because I don't remember there being a ton of changes, but I also think that was right around the time I was in college too. So I wasn't probably there all the time to see what she was going through.
Yeah.
So yes, the only experience I've had is just seeing my mom go through it.
Mm. Yeah, likewise for me. It was around college days as well. And
Yeah.
we used to kind of joke, because there's 4 boys in my family, so 4 brothers. And when mum was going through that particular time, sometimes she'd give us a call and she'd ask us some questions or give us some trouble or interrogate us on something. And I don't know if you remember the Star Wars movies, the original Return of the Jedi, which was number 3 in the series.
Right.
And there's a song there when Darth Vader appears. It goes dun 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 dun. It's called the Emperor's March or something. So I actually put that as my ringtone on my phone for my mum.
Mother.
So
DB, we love you.
It was just joking,
Bless.
but we used to joke about it with her. That's everything's good now. But it just, I guess guys, especially guys at that age, probably don't have any idea what's going on. Our mum's just being crazy again or something.
Exactly. There's no information, Ed. It's interesting you use that ringtone.
So,
but it can feel like she's on the warpath. You know what I mean? It is Star Wars.
It was like that. It's kind of prepare yourself for what's about to happen. Most times it was nothing.
There's an onslaught. There's an onslaught, and I think that's where men go. I'm going to the shed, or I'm going to the pub, or I'm just escaping into another room. But actually, that's the very time she needs you to step forward.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's one of the problems that men make, is they anticipate that something bad is about to happen. And so that's the energy that they're giving off. And that usually means maybe nothing bad was going to happen, but the other person can sense that you've got anxiety, or you're preparing for something like that. And then it just ends up escalating.
And Michelle, sorry to cut you off, but
that's okay.
When the part of your understanding to me is now dialed into, we're, as men, maybe more than most, we're very reactive. So if we understand that they're going through this, and we understand that they might have that Darth Vader feeling going through their minds, that they're going to say things they wouldn't normally say, that we can understand that and be less reactive, because I'd imagine throughout the world, there's a lot more heated arguments happening, because there are finally things that she's saying in ways with no filter that she never would have said before, where our natural instinct is either to react or bounce and let her cool off. But what you're saying here is to understand she's going through it. She doesn't want you to go to the shed or go golfing for 4 hours and give her space, unless she tells you that. She probably wants something different, and you should just listen and not react with. It would probably be, most of us would boil up and say, "How? Like, you just said that to me? What? Let me defend myself." But that's not about us; it's about her.
No, that's so true. I think, a lot of the men in the book also said that patience was really key, to be able to take a deep breath in and know it isn't personal. It might feel like it is, and it might certainly sound like it is, but it's not personal. So to try and see that this is the menopause, you're not the enemy, the menopause is the enemy, or not really the enemy, but it's just a process that you're going to be going through. But to kind of go, right, this isn't about me. And that's where I work with men too, because they need to understand that this is not personal. It can feel like that for sure, when there's fireworks going off and everything else. And so there's things that perhaps from our childhood that are triggered or may come up to be looked at. So menopause is an invitation for both men and women to actually evolve and to deepen the relationship. So there are certain things in our lives that are out of date, but also in the men's lives that are out of date and within the relationship that are no longer working. So it's an invitation to sit with someone in a safe space, confidential, and say, look, this is what it's triggering for me. It could be triggering rejection. Absolutely, Chuck. Or it could be triggering abandonment, or it could be triggering, a feeling of sadness or, anger. And so when our men folk, as it were, or, women in same-sex partnerships, if they can actually deal with the trigger so that even if someone's kind of pulling that trigger, it has no reaction whatsoever. So you can stay really calm, really balanced and go, right, this is the menopause. It's actually not my, Zen friend who's holistic and, is normally as balanced and calm and can deal with things. Because when you're not sleeping and you're overwhelmed, things become even more difficult to deal with. So, it's more difficult then to actually be able to go, yeah, no, that's actually not happening. Let me figure out a different way to do it. It just becomes like, oh my God, the world is coming to an end. I might as well just check out. And a lot of women do, unfortunately, So it's being able to know that too, that it's absolutely, Chuck, it is not personal. And the same with, with the Star Wars, stomp of someone coming towards you on the phone. It's not about you, it is about them. And I think when men realize that, it's not like, well, it's nothing to do with me, it's just like, this is hormonal, I can be with her and not be triggered, then the relationship evolves.
So men,
Yeah. Yes, pause, take a deep breath, and
there's a whole new
realize.
meaning to the name
Indeed,
menopause. Men,
indeed.
pause.
Pause. Yeah, beautiful, Chuck. Yes.
That's awesome. Michelle, you wrote your book for your lovely husband, John. So you've got a beautiful story there. And you work with clients, in particular, you work with men as well to help them navigate through this journey. Do you have a story that comes to mind? Something that turned, so they started here, there was a turning point and it turned into a great result because of your help?
Yeah, one of the women contacted me and said, by reading the book, so she was saying, that the book has actually helped open up a conversation and helped also to allow them to discuss things that perhaps they would never have discussed before, and her relationship was much stronger. There was another guy I worked with and he had no clue. His wife was 45 and he was explaining. And I said, well, what's going on with your wife? And he said, well, this and this and this and this and this. And I said, it's possible she's in the menopause. What? And he had not even considered that this was actually what was going on for her. So he said, so this lack of intimacy, her zero libido is not that she doesn't find me attractive anymore. She just isn't hormonal and doesn't have that anymore. I said, no, not at all. My libido left the planet. It didn't leave the building. I was like, that's the last thing on my mind. And even one guy said, his wife said to him, maybe we should go on holiday, but just as friends. And I was like, I can relate to that because I'm like, this is not happening for me right now because I got too much else to deal with. You know what I mean? So he was kind of going, oh my God. So actually, she's not trying to leave me. I said, no, she's not. She's just dealing with so many other factors at the moment that you're kind of way down the list, and intimacy is way down the list here, like we're talking rock bottom, in terms of the list of priorities. So he was able to be much more compassionate and much more understanding as a result of the work that we did together, and him understanding. Nothing to do with him at all. Unfortunately, the men who say, well, it's her stuff and I'm not interested, they tend to split. They tend to separate because this is too big a deal to go with and to go through without having some support. So, unfortunately, if they think, well, it's just, I'll leave it to her, the relationship won't have longevity. It won't survive. So that's my idea with the book, is to actually strengthen it so that the relationship goes to another level. Both people are willing to work on what's going on and communicate, but have an end goal. So I think that's what's important too, is that you have a joint focus, because maybe your parents have passed away, maybe the children have gone to college, so now what are we doing with our relationship? Where do we want to go? What's our heart's desire? And that's a chapter in the book, as well as the future vision of the two of you together in relationship. What is it that you really want? What is it that you want to have now in the relationship, or be in the relationship? So yeah, so it's important. It is a journey, Ed.
Yeah.
you know
I like this particular topic here, like strengthening the relationship, not just getting through it. There may be some guys out there that think, I'll see you on the other side. Let me know when it's over.
Yeah, when we're back to normal. Newsflash, no normal. This is an upgrade that you didn't know you wanted.
Yeah. So
or needed.
So for people that are watching right now, and this is really resonating with you, and you are seeing some signs that Michelle has pointed out in your relationship as it is right now, can we give them like a 7-day roadmap? Like in the next 7 days, what's a couple of things they can do and they can diarise and really focus on to give them a kickstart towards this better journey?
Yeah. So definitely diarising some time together. Spend some time together to get to know what's really going on. Ask, how are you really doing? Sit down with a bit, no phone, no TV on, maybe go to the beach or go to a forest or whatever, and just kind of hold a hand and figure out, what's really going on. How are you doing? How are things for you? So that's a huge one, is to put time in the diary for the two of you. This is an investment in your relationship. And when she's interested, that you're interested, then you're taking a step together rather than another step apart. So that's definitely one. I would recommend looking to get more information about the menopause. Find out a little bit more. See what has she read that she found was really important. Maybe seen a podcast that she'd like to share with you that really describes what's going on for her, perhaps whether that's about the libido or whether that's about what's happening in her body. So being able to, share some resources or information. And it doesn't mean that you hand her a list of 500 of them, you know what I mean? That you ask her, maybe, is there anything that she's read that, you could watch as well, or maybe watch together if that feels comfortable. Because, remember, women may not feel so comfortable explaining this and may not feel so comfortable sharing. So they might, and I've noticed that with some of the women I've spoken to, they just want to be in a group with women. It's sort of, Ed, like you explained, that they just want to talk about what's going on together, and the men too. So that's important. But there may be things that you can share together, resources you found that you go, hey, do you think that might help? Or do you think that might relate to you in any way or not? And it's fine if it's not. That's okay. We'll just see if we can find something else that would help. And I guess the third and most important one is get yourself a copy of my book. So yeah, there's loads of things in there you can dip into. Like, you don't have to read it all in the one go. You take a chapter, have a look and see, and maybe talk about that chapter. Let her read it maybe, or buy 2 copies and you read it in bed together. Do you know what I mean? So there's kind of an opportunity for an open communication. And that's where, this can really help the two of you firstly understand what's going on, be able to connect, and that, you can show up and be there for her.
Wow, there's some golden nuggets of wisdom there. And it sounds like great relationship advice, even for people that are not going through menopause. Like these things, I'm going to start these things today with my wife, because I think this is going to lay a great foundation for our future as well. How about you, Chuck? Is there some nuggets there you're going to use this week?
Yeah, I'm 2.5 miles away from the beach, and
lovely.
Yet to just have my wife and I go by ourselves and no phones and just talk. So absolutely going to be doing that.
Brilliant. That's great. I mean, it is, Ed, you are laying that foundation now. you're strengthening it now so that you have something to build on. Because otherwise, when you get to it, it feels like shifting sand, and you don't know which way is up or down, but if you can lay the foundation now, gosh, it'll be so much easier, and maybe even one last thing is maybe even attend some, if she's open to it, attend some of the appointments with her so that you know what's going on. There may be some questions that you ask. And sometimes, to be honest, when we get that brain fog, it's like, what the hell? Like, when you ask me those questions, Chuck, it's like, okay, I got the first bit, but the other bits kind of just went into the ethers. So there may be a real value in having you there at the appointment. So you might be able to say, right, these are the things we wanted to ask. She might have that list or not, but there may be other things that you could ask or remind or say, well, I've noticed XYZ, how is this hooking into what's going on for my beloved, so even showing up, say, at an appointment can be really helpful, because she may just not hold all that information. You can't, and I've started to take a homeopathic remedy too to help with that focus, and there are other supplements that you can take to help with the focus, but initially it's tough to remember everything. So even at an appointment, that you have your wingman there, so that he can kind of keep you on track or ask other questions that you may have discussed on your beach walk, that you might go, well, we talked about this, do you remember, and let her bring it in if she needs to, or just pop it in there and see what happens,
The thing I like about
Yeah.
your book, Michelle, is it's not just a book to read from start to finish. It's actually a reference book. You can pick it up anytime and go to the chapter that is talking about the particular question you have on mind right now. And so
Yes.
it's something you can just keep beside your bed or at your home somewhere and just use it as a reference as needed.
Yeah. Dip in and out of. So there's a chapter about intimacy, there's a chapter about emotions, there's a chapter for the wingman himself, on your own self-care, because if you're out of balance and you're really struggling, then what help can you be as a wingman? So your needs are important too. So you may be able to step up, and then you may say, do you know what, now I might need to do my golf for a couple of hours. I might need to go and see the guys, and maybe have a drink or whatever. Do you know what I mean? So that you are able to take a step back as well and support yourself to be able to better support your partner. So there's also about the future vision, and there's resources in there. And then also on my website, menopausewingman.com, there's some freebies, and I'm going to be adding some freebies on there, some recordings as well to help relaxation, mindfulness, meditation. I haven't got there yet. I'm still building that. So, there's a lot to do, but definitely, it is important. It's so important to get that foundation right,
Michelle, as you know, we coach wellness founders to grow their business. So each guest is an opportunity for us to learn how to help people with business. You've got a clear mission. Tell us about your top 3 friction points in the business and what's slowing your ability to be able to reach more people. And this is going to help us know how to help entrepreneurs and founders.
Yeah. So I'd say time for me is a big friction point, having the balance between spending time with my husband, with the dog as well, on my business. So that's kind of limited. Energy is another one. So I am not as energized as I was in my 30s. So I can work smarter, but the energy levels can fluctuate very much so, depending on sleep and all those other things. And I think there's kind of in a sense, having clients, because there's only so many slots that you can do in a week. So I think for me it would be a way to address more people, so that it's not taking from my time, so that I see kind of 20 people in an hour in a group, which is what we're setting up, is a support group online and also in person and locally, so that we could help 20 people in an hour rather than me doing an hour or 2-hour sessions. So I think that is to be able to scale it up. I think that's part of it too,
Yeah. So,
so
those 3 friction points, if we look at time, energy,
Yeah.
and I guess leveraging
Yes.
the clients that
Yeah.
you have.
Yeah.
If you could remove those friction points, what would success look like in 12 months for your business?
So less involvement with me, but much more impact in relationships with people, that I have much more time to go swimming and, chill out and not have to worry about income, kind of having a good passive income, but also, income flowing into the business. Because I think as self-employed, I was talking with a colleague of mine and he said, for the first time in many, many years since he began, he's kind of branching out now, and he said it's been wonderful to not have to worry about going on holiday, and the fact that he wasn't earning any money while he was on holiday, and then the panic of coming back from holiday and going, I have to now start working doubly to get clients in to pay for the holiday and to get some income coming in. So I think that's a big factor as well,
Certainly.
particularly when you're an individual,
Yeah, you've got years or decades of experience, a wealth of knowledge to share.
Mm-hmm.
It's just about leveraging it with the time that you have, and whether you can or cannot be at a certain place at a certain time, that people still have access to your teachings and to your system. And one of the things that you mentioned before that you're building is called the Wingman Circle, a weekly online group for men supporting partners through menopause. Do you want to tell us about that and when that's going to launch?
Yeah. So it's going to launch in September, the end of September. So it is for men, and John, my husband, is going to be part of it too. So there's going to be male and female in there, so it will be an online group for people who for men who want to talk about things, understand things, maybe process things as well, or release things. And the same for women. So I've got coherence circle as well for women to be able to do the same. And then there's going to be a gathering. So that would be once a month, and that's in person. And then that's also a sharing circle. So, everybody's different and everybody's experience is different. So it's for me, it's about sharing the information and bringing people together who I might not have the solution, but someone else has gone through it and had the experience of it and can actually share in the group. So we're looking at doing those as well. So I will be facilitating the women's group, and then John and I as well with the man's group. So that's the next sort of step really for us is to be able to provide more support in a different way, but it may be kind of a little bit hands off. So I'm not kind of seeing 20 people in a week, if that makes sense. We could do 20 in that hour or hour and a half and have much more impact, so less taxing on my system.
Sure.
Right
Well,
now,
I think you can put Chuck and my name down for the wait list for the Wingman Circle.
Brilliant.
And I'll invite everyone that I know. People can go to your website. It's menopausewingman.com. So that's just one long word, menopause.
It is. Yeah.
Wingman.com. The link will be in the description below, whether you're watching on YouTube or on audio. We'll also put the link for your book on Amazon and your Instagram in the show notes below.
Thank you.
So there's 3 or 4 different ways to find you.
Yes.
A final question that we like to ask is, what does happiness mean to you?
Oh, that's a good one. Happiness means having inner peace to me and being with the people I love and the animals I love. Happiness means being of service and doing what I love and creating a ripple effect within either a family or a workplace or a community. That really fires me up, to know that I'm helping and I'm making a difference in one person's life. And I know that then there is a ripple effect. Like the people I've worked with, everyone around them has benefited from the work that the person has done themselves. So that to me brings me so much happiness. And finally, being out in nature. So being in a forest by the beach. I am just the happiest person ever when I'm out in nature. Yeah.
I go for a run a few days per week, and there's this massive giant tree on my run around the lake. I always stop and I put my arms around the tree for a hug. and can just feel the energy. It's
Lovely.
so beautiful. It's a great way to reset.
That's beautiful. It is a great way to reset. Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, it was frowned upon in the past, or people ridiculed it, but actually it's so healthy. Just
Yeah.
have your heart, against the tree. That
Yeah.
really regulates your system so quickly.
Yeah.
Mm.
I'm going to go back to my very important question that everyone's waiting to hear the answer to.
Gosh, I thought that last one was, but anyway, here we go.
The question is, during my life, I have had the joy of having a number of different girls in my life. And I have found that each of them has had a different way of dealing with their monthly period. Some of them, you wouldn't even know they're having their period. Others, you know very well they're having it. And then some are kind of in between. So my question for you is your experience with your period when you're younger, is that an indicator of what menopause is going to look like for you?
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I spoke with an acupuncturist and he said to me, when you start your period, it should be just a natural thing. No ups, no downs, no highs, no lows. If you're balanced when it starts, then at the end as well, it's just like things are turning off and you carry on. So what makes it worse are those environmental factors and the food and stress particularly, but also, which we haven't touched on yet, can be hereditary within the family system. So there may be other emotional impacts that happen whereby, my mother had migraines, my sister did. I was lucky enough not to have them. So if the women can support themselves right at the beginning, there's some beautiful supplements that they could take, then that starts to balance out the hormones. Having other support, whether that is acupuncture or, naturopathy or whatever, to be able to bring the body back into balance, then that journey should be smoother. So there's a lot we can do, which maybe we're not, I kind of spoke about, but that maybe isn't available to the younger woman. That what we do now has a massive impact on what happens in the menopause. So what we can bring in now or support now in our bodies will have a completely different outcome at the sort of, not the end of our lives, but this chapter of our lives.
Michelle, I feel obligated to let the listeners know that because we're talking a lot about supplementation today and how important that's going to be throughout this whole journey, you really just nailed it. And I feel called to say that we're going to put a link down in the show notes to a supplement that I was off air share with you so you can see the history of it. But I've done a lot of supplementation. I've experienced a lot. I've done a ton of research. 4 or 5 months ago, I found the cream of the crop, like nutritional mineral supplement, and it's the best I've ever seen. And it works. And it's in almost every single country. So if you're in the US, you're in Ireland, you're in the UK, wherever you are in the world, it's available. But I'm going to put the link down below in the show notes to the 4 studies that they did to show how impactful they are. And then if you guys, anyone that's listening wants to figure out how to get that, then you just need to reach out to us. Make a comment below. We can give you a referral link to that actual store wherever you are.
Brilliant.
Country you're
Brilliant,
into.
Chuck.
Get that.
Yeah, brilliant.
It has been huge and impactful for me. I don't want this to be a commercial for them, but I don't want us to keep talking about supplements and then people are asking, well, where do I go and find it? Like I've already done all the research. I've probably done more research than you ever would want to do. Not only research, experimentation in my own body.
Yeah,
I tell you, this is been the best for me. And then for everyone else that I've talked to, friends and family that have been taking it, the stories for them are amazing too. And it's not all been linked to menopause, not necessarily like topics come up like, oh, I have menopause, you should take the supplement. It's every aspect of our lives. It's inflammation reduction. I have my cousin whose knees aren't sore anymore. His gout's gone in his foot. I mean, it's just because of the fact that we talked earlier, like we're not getting the right amount of nutrients from our daily diet, especially minerals. And the soil, no matter where we are in the world, are different. So I don't want this to necessarily be a commercial for that, but I don't also want people lacking resources. So we'll put that link below so that everyone can see who this is, what it's about, and then if they want to get some, let us know.
Yeah, brilliant,
Yeah.
Chuck. And I think, I think it's important that we have choice. There are some women who will go down the chemical route and down the HRT route because they don't have any other option, and that's a choice too. I chose not to, basically because of what had happened with the birth control pill. I was like, I'm not going to go down any other chemical avenue now. I'm certainly not going to. So I chose differently. And yes, it did last longer, but I feel I've benefited by not taking, because, you come off it, the symptoms come back anyway. You know what I mean? So you're going to have to go through it at some point, or you keep on with them until the rest of your life. And I think also, from my perspective, I was not aware at 20 the impact of that because the research wasn't done at that time, or maybe it was and I wasn't aware of it. So maybe there isn't long-term studies on what taking these other chemicals will have an impact at some point. They have to, so we're not there yet with the understanding of that. So I guess I'm sort of more cautious in terms of what else I add to my body right now, and so something that is more aligned, can be recognized by the body, is much more interesting to me now than, as it was, where I was just looking for a quick fix and it ticked that box, but it had a knock-on effect later
Yeah.
on,
And I think we
What-
could all relate that no matter what phase we're in, if we can get it from nature, let's get it from nature. That's always
100%.
going to be better from us for us. That's how we were built. That's why we're here. That's why it's here. So if we can get it from nature and do it that way, we're all better off for it. So
Yeah.
that's a great point. And the good news is you can get it from nature, and it doesn't
Brilliant.
be on the piling on your kitchen sink or in on your kitchen countertop and have to eat like a huge buffet
Gazillion.
food all the
Yeah,
time.
yeah, yeah,
There's
yeah.
natural supplements that you can take. I found them. They're amazing. And
Wow.
it's a game changer for sure. And
Brilliant.
I want to make sure that it's, to your chemical component, it's very, very clear that, guys, I'm a living example. So are you, right? I got diagnosed with Hashimoto's disease the year I graduated from
Wow.
college, 2005. They gave me a pill. They said, you'll be taking this for the rest of your life. Chemical.
What
Now,
a diagnosis.
right? But what they also didn't communicate, because they're not trained to do it, is that it is also nutritional. So the diet, my consumption at the time, was causing the inflammation that was in my body, which was then causing this autoimmune disease and attacking my thyroid as a foreign object. It's not natural. So what was I putting
Right.
in my body for so long, and the gut microbiomes that I picked up from my parents, right?
Mm-hmm.
Great
Yes.
parents. So all of that caused inflammation, and inflammation isn't good for your body. So
No.
again, like, just be cautious that if somebody's giving you chemicals to solve a symptom or to lessen a symptom or to stop the symptom as a solution, there's always a natural way for you to reduce that, improve that, maybe even heal that. Just look into that aspect first and realize that your body has so much more powerful when it has its nutrients and minerals. Your body is capable of regenerating, and the cells can be healed. It's just a powerful, like, our bodies are magical. We just can't
Yeah.
putting crap in it all the time. Like the stuff we're
True.
getting from the store, but also like the drugs that were also being recommended. Like, there's a place,
True.
sure,
Yes,
but
there is.
it's not a daily thing, and we can
No.
stop doing that. So if nature can be first, I get off my soapbox here for a second, but I
Yeah.
natural,
Yeah.
please.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
Chuck, a few weeks ago, or maybe it was 2 months ago, we had a guy on the show named Brian who works in the cosmetics industry, and specifically he works in the testing and approval process of cosmetics. And he highlighted some really eye-opening stuff. I suggest everyone go back and watch that episode. I'll put it here, just link it here.
Yeah, do. Yeah.
Like, oh my goodness, sunscreens, the approval process, some of the beauty creams that people pay thousands of dollars for. He said if you knew what really happened in the labs and how a lot of these big multi-billion-dollar companies pay money to get certain products approved when smaller little companies don't have the same amount of budget. And it reminded me of a story because my brother works in genomics. He's a research scientist, and he at one time he worked for one of the largest pharmaceutical companies in the world. And he told me that the pharmaceutical companies would give him a drug. They would tell him to do the tests, and then they would tell him what result they want him to show, and then they pay money for it. And so they would have to make the how do you say, make the tests results equal to what they wanted the results to say. So that may mean remove the test subjects that did not give the result they wanted and just use the test subjects that did, or some other way to kind of tweak it. But it's fucking scary, to be honest. And, you're talking about putting chemicals in your body. The pharmaceutical companies, they are trillion-dollar industry. They're making
on the
so
food
much
industry
money.
too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And,
True,
and
both of them.
I saw another really shocking thing today that they used the US as an example, but not only US, other countries as well. They use lower socioeconomic areas to get people to donate blood. You get paid $50 to donate blood. And people in those areas may not have a lot of money, so they go to donate blood for $50. But later on, that blood gets turned into plasma and gets turned into something else, and it gets sold back into the market for $100 per gram. So they're literally buying your blood and selling it back to you at 100 times the price. Like this is the shit that's happening. So I agree with you guys. As much as possible, eat from the ground, eat organic, grow your own if possible.
Yes.
Eat as natural as possible. Stay away as much as possible from pharmaceuticals, from packaged products, from things that are like Chuck said, the food industry.
Yeah, the pre-processed. Yeah.
Food growing from the ground is the healthiest for you. And I did a nutrition workshop last week. We talked about this. If it looks like it grew out of the ground, like if it's a piece of broccoli, if it's a banana, if it's an apple or a carrot, something like that, okay, that's as close as possible to something that grows out of the ground. Then if it's a carrot in a can, that's another level down the scale. And then if it's something that's like snap frozen, and then if it's like something that's processed or flavored, like there's a sliding scale. At the top of the scale is a real carrot, and at the bottom of the scale is the stuff that's packaged.
Yeah.
So, and that's why when you go to the supermarket, the outside perimeter of the supermarket is the bread, fruits, vegetables, milk, cheese. And then the inside, when you walk into the supermarket, they direct you straight into the aisles where you've got the breakfast cereals and all the processed packaged foods. Be aware of what you're putting into your body. And Chuck, as you said, you're a living example of before and after. And people that go back and look at some of our earlier episodes and look at Chuck 2 years ago compared to Chuck now, he looks completely different. So he's a living example and more energetic, more focused.
Woo-hoo! Yeah.
more young, like literally reversed aging. So I 100%, believe in what you guys are saying. And I also believe it myself.
Yeah. I think it is sort of getting to know more about, as you were saying about the results, who created those results from the tests, who paid for those, for that information, who's paying the bill for that. And my husband used to work in the pharmaceutical industry, and he said there's no money in a cure. There's only money in a treatment.
Exactly. We see it now. We're more awake than ever before. So people listening in here and watching, they get it. They
do.
Hopefully they're just looking for what is the solution, right? So talked a lot about solutions today. Check them out. Go to Michelle's website. Check out the studies that were done on that supplement. Multiple times a week. Are could you start? Sure. But let's be real, you're probably not going to make any drastic changes in your life right now. Unless you have what happened to me 2 years ago when you get the big C and you're like, okay, I guess I need to make some changes, now.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that
Yeah.
takes an event like that to really like completely clear out everything that's in your home and start eating differently. So
Yes.
I think supplementation might be not necessarily the answer, but a big part of the solution for everything we talked about today, including making sure that it's by the time you and your spouse, because I'm talking to men too, because today we're talking to men too, right? Like
Yeah. Yeah.
men need to also have those micronutrients and minerals as well. Like before you guys hit that age where you're dealing with everything we talked about today, be a little bit easier if the nutrition and minerals are there. So Michelle, thank you
Yeah.
so much for being here. This was an awesome
Thank you,
podcast. We
Chuck.
really enjoyed
Thank you.
talking to you. And,
Me too.
I hope
Me
everyone's
too.
around for an hour and 30 minutes. This was really good stuff. And
God bless them if they did, Yeah,
yes,
no, we're so grateful for them hanging in here, with an hour and 30. Yeah.
I wonder what we
Yeah.
all sound like at 2 times or 3x the speed, because I know that's how everyone's listening to stuff these days. So
Yeah, yeah. But I think you're right. It's so important. Here in Ireland, they call it Sniper Alley. So in your 50s, when you hit your 50s, they call it Sniper Alley because there's a sniper coming out from somewhere that you really didn't
gosh,
expect. Yeah. So he's like, and we ate good food and I made sure he had good supplements, but still, he got a heart attack, stress related, didn't need a stent, but boy, oh boy, was that a wake up call. And I think our body whispers initially until it gets louder and louder to a scream, and then it goes, right, time out, chung, pulls out the plug until we go, maybe I do need to do something about this. So don't wait until your body's screaming, pick up on the whisper and make a change there,
Yeah, there's a saying that a healthy person has 1,000 dreams. A sick person only has one.
Wow, that's so true. That's so true. Wow. Yeah, dead right. And I think China is that kind of focus was they put out a lantern, so they were able to purchase a lantern when the person was well enough and could pay them. So then they purchased the doctor purchased a lantern and that hung outside their practice to show that they had had successful clients, successful well clients as a result of the work they did. So they only got paid when the person was well enough again. So you know what I mean? That's the shift. That's what I'm hoping is that we're shifting back to that because when you're sick, you can't pay. But when you've been helped and you're back up and running again, obviously then you have the wealth there, not only wealth from physically, but also financially because you can work again. So that's why those red lanterns are symbolic of China, because it's like he's been successfully treating people again and again and again and again and again. It's worth going to him because he's got what it takes.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Chuck,
There you go.
what tools have been added to your toolkit from this episode today?
yeah, more time, more listening, more patience, more as a man, pause,
Yeah.
I'm going to be practicing that even before menopause. So there's a lot that I can implement even now, not dealing with that situation today to prepare us to be able to get through it with flying colors when it does happen.
Brilliant. My job is done then, Chuck.
Yeah, and likewise for me as well. I realize that this is something that we don't need to wait for. We can start this journey now so that it becomes habitual and just becomes a part of the even deeper relationship in the future. So you gave some great relationship advice today, no matter how old you are.
Thank
so
you.
I really appreciate that.
Well, thank you, Ed. And thank you so much, both of you.
It's been like 3 to 4 months in the making to get this episode finally to air. So please enjoy it and share it with the people that you love.
Thank you.
Stay with us for another episode. There's one episode here which is definitely worth watching. It's one of our golden episodes. And this one here, if you miss it, you are missing the episode of your life. These two. Okay, subscribe down there, like that button
Share
down
over there.
Share over there, and we'll see you next week.